Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, everybody. We're going live now. Today, I am actually right now. Good morning, Blaine. Good morning, and I want to say good morning to Stephanie also. I'm trying to test out different times of the day. Uh, what I was talking about earlier, that I want to try to test out different times of the day on Sunday. Also, I have a couple of engagements going on. Excuse me. But I have a couple of engagements going on that I have to attend to this afternoon. I have family coming in for Christmas, of course, coming to visit San Miguel de Allende. So today we have an early stream. We have 6 people in right now. I don't know if we're going to get a lot of people in this morning, but I'm good. I'm going to go ahead and try to vary the times a little bit to see what's best, and then maybe put out a poll a little later on to see what's best for you guys. Hold on just 1 second. Let me get some water real quick. And hey, Federica, how are you doing? From Charlotte, North Carolina. Nice to see you coming in. Um, Today I don't have any particular subjects. I'm that just came up recently or whatever. I did. I'm trying to put together a video on pretty soon that's coming out. Also, I have some news about the Anipam card that might be coming out soon, and so stay tuned for that. But please realize it's Christmas holidays. Like I've told everybody that YouTube is not my life, and YouTube is just, I have a normal life. I don't make money off of this. I do this for the expat community as a public service. So sometimes I'm a little behind. Sometimes I try to plan my videos out, try to get out some consistency out there. But most of the stuff that I do is trying to help you guys out and keeping informed. I don't know how many times I need to stress that the goal of my channel is to keep you guys informed with accurate information, very accurate information. The other thing that I also have, sometimes I put down these, or not put down, or I might say something maybe may sound negative about YouTubers, or a certain YouTuber said this, or they did this, or they did that. The thing is that I'm one to call out whoever in the industry. If they're not giving you accurate information, I will call them out. I don't care how good they are or how bad they are. But the reason why, and I want to explain this, is it has nothing to do with jealousy. It has nothing to do with competition. It has nothing to do with getting more views or more subscribers. What it has to do with, and I want to explain the goal and the mission of my channel. What it has to do with is not just giving you the information, but also not just giving you the how, not just giving you the how to do it, why, but I want to give you the why. There's, I forgot in English, they say whenever you're putting something together, you want what is it, the four, what, where, why, and how, right? That's what I want to give you. The problem that I see in Facebook groups, the problem that I see with YouTube is, and I may use some YouTubers as an example, and I'm not putting them down, and I'm not saying that they're bad or anything else like that. But what you need to understand about the game in YouTube is the game in YouTube is all about subscribers. It's all about getting you to click on that video. It's all about, I don't know, that thumbnail that says, a lot of times people don't even watch my videos. They just look at the thumbnail, and then all of a sudden we get this big, one of the biggest examples is Mexico dangerous? People don't even look at the people don't even watch a video. They start going on about how Mexico's not less dangerous and blah, 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 and how the United States has all these mass shootings and everything else. But what I really encourage you to do is look at the video. And the reason why, and I want to give an example, is that you need to know the why. I know a lot of people want to know for example, I'm going to use the 180 days thing because this is the biggest thing with people that, of course, can't obtain residency due to financial solvency. It's also a big thing for digital nomads. But this 180 days thing, you need to know the why and where, because like about a year ago, they were only giving people 5 days, 7 days. All of a sudden, there was this sudden effort of enforcement. And I know people want to know, just tell me if I can get my 180 days and come in. I just want to know that. I want to watch a video and say, okay, 180 days is good. Well, that's fine. You want to, and I've had some criticism. Get to the point. Get to the point. I don't want to know the whole history of immigration or the whole history of, but what I want you guys to know is the why. And the reason why it's important to know the why and not just how is because there's certain political factors that may be behind it. So one day they may be giving 180 days and the next day they may not. And then you don't understand why, because yesterday they were, but today they're not. And that's why, when you're sitting there and doing your plans, I guarantee you, and I always say this, none of these YouTubers that give you this information and say, hey, you're good for 180 days from now on. When they say that, they're doing it with a financial interest that you click on their video and they tell you what you want to hear. But at the same time, what happens if political circumstances change? That's what I'm trying to tell you. If you know the why, then you already know what you're up against. Because if you decide to move here to Mexico and you decide to run to the border every 180 days because that's the only way that you can live here, and hopefully the regularization program maybe might start up again. There's a lot of rumor that it's going away. So far it's stayed, and let's hope it stays. But hopefully, if it stays till next year, maybe they'll accept regularization. If you they're upping the when you had to have an entry. So those things, if you're gonna do that, and you're gonna basically take that risk, because it is a risk that a lot of YouTubers they minimize it. Oh no, don't worry. It's perfectly legal. Go ahead and do it. You're going to get 180 days. And it's not necessarily true. And actually, I've even had a comment or two. There was a guy that even commented in one of my things that he said, I was a Mexican and I only got 90 days. They didn't give me my 180 days like I was promised. One thing I try to tell everybody is that YouTuber that gives you that advice is not the one that has to put up with the consequences if it's not true. So, we'll have to see what happens. But I try to keep you as well informed. And for example, I'll give you a perfect example. And no, I'm not trying to put down anybody. I'm not jealous. I don't care. But Kuru Paul just did a video about can you live in Mexico on Social Security. He was trying to hit 100,000 subscribers. He didn't tell his audience. He just says, I have a goal of hitting 100,000. I don't know why. I just want to hit 100,000 subscribers. What he wasn't telling you is that 100,000 subscribers, you get a plaque from YouTube so that he could show it off to his viewers. He actually did a video today that he showed off his beautiful plaque that he got for 100,000 subscribers. He doesn't even live here anymore. But when he was doing the video, he actually was talking about running to the border every 180 days. And then he started talking about, there was a period of time, and people started to complain. He was making assumptions. People weren't complaining. That's not why they started giving 180 days. The reason why they started giving 180 days is because a law passed in Congress that mandated immigration to start expediting people through the airport. It wasn't because expats complained. And here's the thing. It sounds like something trivial, right? And this guy's a really good YouTuber. He's one of the best in Mexico. But at the same time, why do you need to lie to your audience? You just have to say, hey, they're giving 180 days. That happened. I don't know why. I don't know why they're giving 180 days now. But see, that's the point. This person misguided his audience in an effort, and actually it was just a regurgitation of a previous video, to get 100,000 subscribers. You know, what is it? To feed your ego? To say I have 100,000 subscribers so I can get up and do a video and say, thank you, everybody. Look at my plaque. But the point is, you need to give accurate information. And this individual has a record of giving the most accurate information, some of the most accurate information here in Mexico. And that individual also took a lot of money to promote a company, and he didn't want to admit that he did it by accident. I honestly do believe that individual took that money, not realizing the danger that he was posing to the community. But instead, I wasn't wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. And it's the same thing with the 180 days thing. 180 days thing. It's the same thing. You know, hold on just one second. It's the same thing with the 180 days thing, that not the 180 days thing, with the, you can just show you're retired. One of the largest YouTubers, he even went on to blame the audience for not doing their research. Oh, it's up to them. Mexican attorney said this was okay. And it's not my fault that I didn't double check the information. It's the viewer that needs to check check. It's a viewer that needs to check that information to see if I'm correct. Well, then why do you release the information in the first place? It's not so hard to say, sorry, I was wrong. It's not so hard to say, I don't know, but this is what I know. Okay? That's what I'm trying to do with this channel. I don't care how many subscribers I have. I don't care how many clicks I get on a video. I don't make money off of this. This is the reason why I do this. And you know what? I use YouTubers as an example. I use expat services as an example that have done certain things. And you know what? Those YouTubers, some of those YouTubers are great people. Some of those expat services are the best at what they do. But come on, you want to try to get ahead of the competition, or you want to get a YouTube button, or you want to get more subscribers because you can make more money, or you want to do clickbait kind of stuff and shock people so that they'll click on your video so that you can make money, then everybody needs to be aware. And when I call you out, I'm sorry, I called you out. That's just the way it works. That doesn't mean I think anything less of you. And that's the thing. We need to know the why. That is my point in everything. For example, if they're giving 180 days again, if tomorrow they quit giving 180 days, I'm going to look into it and I'm going to tell you the why, if I can. That's if I can. For example, I told you, and I've said this before, the reason why they were only giving 5 days, 7 days, 10 days is because the U.S. government was pressuring Mexico to turn away Venezuelans because they didn't require, they could get in on an FMM just like U.S. citizens. So U.S. said, hey, start cracking down on Venezuelans. And Mexico said, hey, we'll start cracking down on you too. And that is the truth. It's not because immigration, there's no rhyme or reason. There was no rhyme or reason, but the directions from the top were enforce these laws like you're enforcing on the Venezuelans, enforce them on the Americans, enforce them on the Canadians. Then later on, a law came out that said, hey, we don't want 3-hour lines in Cancun. Get everybody through within 30 minutes on a computer. That's why they started stamping passports. That's why they have the electronic FMM. And I know many of you might say, I don't care. All I care about is the stamp on my passport in 180 days. But the thing is if you don't know that why, if tomorrow they quit doing it, you're going to be sitting there going, well, what happened? And it's very important that you need to know the why. And it's very important that you need to know more than just the information. A lot of my videos before were 15 minutes long, 20 minutes long. I'm trying to, I took your advice and I try to compact it as much as possible. I try to keep it down to 3 or 4 minutes. And a lot of people, their biggest thing was, I really don't want to hear the why, just give me the bottom line. Okay. Well, if you want the bottom line, you can go to the end of the video. But the reason why I always put the why in my videos is so that you can better understand. And if something changes, then you can understand too. I'll give you another example of the why you want to know the why. A viewer of mine, in my last video, I said that the financial solvency requirements were probably going to go up, but we don't know yet because they just keep going up and keep going up. And to be honest with you, my honest opinion, this is just my opinion, they're getting a little bit too high. And my honest opinion is that immigration has a different set of financial solvency requirements. And why isn't the exterior relations going with that? I have no idea why. Nobody's been able to explain to me why, even within my contacts. But other than exterior relations can do whatever they want, right? So we don't know. Maybe exterior relations will say, well, these are getting too high and we're not getting very many people and we're getting too many people, not enough people applying. Maybe we're going to have to go to the lower requirement. But, it's important to know the why, like I said, because this individual said, hey, the president's leaving. Because if you think about the minimum wage, and I'm going to tell you the truth here, this president has increased the minimum wage higher than any other president. Every year it's been increased by at least a minimum of 20%. He's increased the minimum wage higher than any other administration in the history of Mexico. So this individual asked me, well, is the 20% going to continue? And I said, well, I don't know. I mean, we don't know. If a new president comes in, they can change everything. They can change even the requirements, or they can tell SRE. But I told the individual, I said, look, AMLO's on his way out. Yes, we're going to have a new president. But what you need to understand is the front runner right now for president, the individual who has the most polling votes, the front runner is from the same party as the current president. Not only are they from the same party, but if this individual wins, it's probably going to be the first woman president in the history of Mexico, number one. Actually, the first two front runners are women. So we are probably going to have our next, regardless, number one or number two wins, we're probably going to have the first woman president in the history of Mexico. So that's number one. Number two, if the individual for AMLO's party wins, you're still going to have the party philosophy continue over. Not only that, but the individual who's Secretary of Foreign Relations will probably remain as the Secretary of Foreign Relations. What does that tell you? Not much will change. What does that tell you? More than likely, if the party line keeps going that way AMLO has been going, then we're going to see 20% increases every year. And one thing to also note about the minimum wage that I can tell you right now is that nobody really pays the minimum wage. Right now, a construction worker here in San Miguel de Allende makes anywhere from 400 to 600 pesos a day. That's almost double the minimum. Actually, the people that make 600 pesos a day, like the plumbers, the specialists, that's double the minimum wage. So if the minimum wage keeps up going 20%, 20%, 20%, then, well, when is it going to equal 600 pesos a day? Okay. But where it will affect you is it keeps going 20%, 20%, 20%. And before you know it, financial solvency requirements are going to be at $10,000 a month. And nobody seems to understand that financial solvency has nothing to do with the cost of living here. And it's the same thing that came out when, all you have to do is be retired. Well, it came out from a lawyer and this YouTuber from Merida that were interpreting the immigration law, and it's exact immigration law, but they were treating it like it was something secret, but it was within the immigration law. It's the immigration law for requiring for permanent residency. For permanent residency, in that article of the immigration law, there's several ways you can get in on permanent residency. Like one may be a political asylum, other different things. humanitarian. But one of the ways of going straight to permanent residency is, number one, you are retired. That's why the consulate requires you to be retired, okay, of retirement age, or show that it comes from a pension. Now, some people have gotten that waived, so that's where the discretion of the consulate comes in. And then it says being able to present being of retirement of age, or being able to present a pension letter or proof of source of income from a pension, showing a livable income. Okay, that's what the law says. That's not what the regulations say. That is the bare minimum requirement. Okay, then if you go to the reglamentos de migración, which is how you administer those laws, and I've explained this already, you go to the reglamentos de migración and they say the person that's going to determine the livable income is not you, not the YouTuber, not a lawyer. It's exterior relations, the consulate. And consulate calls that financial solvency. And, I had one YouTuber out of Ajijic advise people to go to the consulate with a copy of the law and try to educate the consular's office on the law. The consular's office already knows the law. And when you try to educate them, you're doing nothing more than making a fool out of yourself in front of a consular officer. That's what that YouTuber was telling you to do. He even told you to go in without an appointment because you're not officially. And he even said, go talk to the consular general. The consular general is not going to talk to you. He's a very important person. The consular general is equivalent to an ambassador. Those people meet with presidents, heads of state. They don't meet with you and I. And usually if they do, it's a very lucky opportunity for them to meet with you. Not even I, on an official level, got to meet with a consular. I always met with a consular officer when I was working. Now, when I was working in Brazil, I met with high-level officials and ambassadors and stuff like that. But when I was working on the border and I arrested a Mexican national, I never got to talk to the consular general. And if the consular general called my office, he would talk to my boss. He would talk to the head of the office. He wasn't talking to me. The only contact that I had was with a consular officer. So, these are things. And here's the thing. The sad part is that after all of this, and this individual from Merida is so proud that he blew up the internet, he caused diplomatic tensions between the United States and Mexico. Consulates were actually complaining because individuals were going in demanding their permanent residency because they had a pension. And that's not right. Number one, that's not right. Number two, it could force us back into getting 7 days again. That's what people don't understand. And that's where we need to know the why. And I try to get the why out there. And, that's why I call myself no bull. I don't make any money off of this. I have a pension. I have my own source of incomes. So I don't need the money. And you know what? It may sound like I'm complaining about other YouTubers, but I don't have an ego neither. I don't care. I really don't care. To be honest with you, if they are successful, they're not successful. My job is to make sure that you get the information accurately. If someone gives you the wrong information or it's not accurate, then guess what? My job is to make sure to let you know that information is not accurate. Or if that person doesn't know why, then it's my job to try to tell you why so that you have the why. Okay? Especially when you're doing these border runs. I get it. I'm not one that's going to put you down because you're running to the border every 60 days, but I always told people it's illegal, but it's kind of legal. When people say it's totally legal, yes, it's totally legal. When the minute the immigration officer stamps your passport, it's legal. But if the immigration officer decides that you are living here, or the immigration officer decides, hey, there's something fishy here. And what people don't understand, there's computer systems that now that track all your entries and exits. And let's say this is the fourth time. Actually, San Miguel de Allende is already refusing regularization to repeat entries to people that were doing every 6 months regularization. I know San Miguel de Allende for sure. So that goes to show you, you know what I'm saying? That goes to show you that immigration does see these things. And when the immigration officer determines that you're living here and not visiting, he can do one of two things. He can say, I'll give you a chance, or nope, nope. And that is what's coming in the future. But the problem is, and I'm not saying go for it if you have to do it, but at the same time, know the consequences. Have a plan. If you run to the border every 180 days, don't have anything that you're not willing to leave behind in Mexico. If you leave your apartment or whatever you're staying in, do your leases around that, around your border runs. Maybe come in through the land border instead of trying to fly in, because the land border sometimes you can get at least 7 days if they don't give you the 180 for free. Sometimes, so what I'm trying to say is you can plan. If you know the why, you can plan. Maybe you know that, okay, they're good. They're coming down on back-to-back entries, so maybe I'll go home for 6 months and I'll visit my kids, and maybe they'll just see me as a winter tourist. So if that makes sense, just make sure that you know the why. Let's go back into questions, because I tend to talk too much, and I took off whole 30 seconds. No, Gringos Are Us. I honestly, if I see 100, I will definitely do a video about it. LOL. Yeah, no, I don't have anything against Kurupal doing a video, but I think he deserves it. To be honest with you, I think he's one of the best YouTubers here. I don't mean to call him out on it, but what I do call out with some of the stuff that he does is it's just kind of like misleading the audience. Hey, I need 100,000 subscribers. It's just my goal. I don't know why. He even put in his community post, I don't know why. Well, he knew exactly why. But that's not the point. The point is that you need to understand sometimes that these people have other intentions. You need to understand that you need to know the why. That's all the point that I'm trying to make here. My current beef with YouTubers who put themselves out there as experts that you can consult for a fee, but they don't know the law, they don't know the language, and they lie and make clickbait. Yes, that's true, Gina, and that's one of the things that I think we've had a big problem with here in the community, in the expat community, not just YouTubers, but individuals who decide to make the entrepreneurs that decide that they're going to make a business out of it, giving advice. And sometimes their advice, happens to be bad advice, unfortunately. And people are paying them to do this. And other individuals, like I said, you said, they don't know the language. There's other individuals that they've only lived in one place their whole life, in Mexico. Never been out of Merida, never been out of Cancun. And then they're trying to tell people how it is in the rest of Mexico. That's not right. Okay. I've been fortunate enough that the fact that I have family all over Mexico. I also have contacts all over Mexico. Yes, there's certain places I haven't been. There's certain places, Baja was one of the places when they would ask me questions, I say, I really don't know. And now I've learned a little bit more. I also have contacts that can tell me, hey, this is what's going on in Oaxaca. And I also read the news. Okay, we're very big. We read the newspapers and keep up with the news. So yes, I'm just a guy that just does that. But there's some people that don't do that. They generalize everything. They generalize about Mexico based on where they live. And that's not necessarily the way it works. As a matter of fact, I just did my live stream about tamales. And I was telling people that the difference between how they make them here, they make them different up in the north. I try to give a little bit of history. That's the why. That I'm actually giving you the why, not just letting you watch us make tamales. I want to give you the why. I want to give you how it's made. I want you to be able to I want you to be able to appreciate that tamal when you're eating it, the work that goes into it, the fresh ingredients that go into them sometimes. Not all of them do, but good morning. Oh, Flying GSP, how's it going? Buenos dias, jet lag. Great to see you here. Crapple. Was that the same YouTuber from Media who advised viewers to refuse Mexican authorities who request to see your immigration papers if you're stopped on the street? Not smart advice. Actually, Crapple Production, it is the same one. He's also the same one that said you can hit a cop in the face and get away with it here in Mexico. Actually, that video mysteriously disappeared, or that live stream mysteriously disappeared. And his excuse was that YouTube was giving it. He took down a bunch of live streams and videos where he made a lot of comments like that. And his excuse was, oh, well, YouTube was giving me copyright problems. But what he did was, when he started to grow and started to legitimize himself more, he didn't want people to see that. But he actually said that. He also is the same YouTuber that advised people that if you had a lawyer that had the right connections, quote, connections that could pay an immigration officer, you could get your papers. So, but that's several years ago. I don't know if that video still exists, but it's the same guy. And he's growing like weeds right now. And also, I did a video to counter his saying, don't give your immigration paper, because he was saying it was based on the Constitution. The Mexican officials couldn't stop you. Yes, based on the Constitution, on Article 10, the Mexican officials cannot stop you. But there's an exception for immigration. It actually says it in the Constitution. For immigration, an immigration officer can check your legal status in Article 10, the same article he was quoting. So, Diana, that's why I love your videos. You do. Give the why. The mentality nowadays is just astonishing to me. I appreciate you taking the time to share with us. Thanks. Well, Diana, that's my goal. And thank you for letting us know the why. And that's my goal. I want you to know the why. Adrian, do you have information about private schools in Mexico? I know every city is different, but any information is interesting. Adrian, as far as private schools, I'll tell you what, it depends where you go. Sorry, I have to get my drink of water. It depends where you go. Every area is going to have private schools. Okay. Let me explain to you something about the way the Mexican culture works. And the Mexican culture or the system here is a class system. Okay. You have your upper class, you have your middle class. I mean, you have a class system everywhere, but everything is based on class here, as a matter of fact. So what you're going to find is you're going to find the public school system, and then you're going to find a private school system that kind of is next to the public school system in most towns and most cities. The individuals that go to the private schools are going to be the more privileged individuals, either upper middle class, or the rich people are going to be the ones that go send their kids to private school. Most of those private schools that come in, they're businesses, they're private schools, of course. It depends, because some private schools you'll see in Monterrey, they have an American school. It's run by, I guess, someone, they call it the American school. Someone from the United States started the school there. You'll also There's several Christian schools that will open up. I think in Querétaro, one of our friends sends their kid to I'm not sure if it's a Swiss or German school. They all teach in English because most of the upper class wants their kids to know proficient English. Because number one, that's a lot of them send their kids overseas to the United States, to England, to Cambridge, to Oxford, those universities that, for example, require English as a language. So they want their kids to know English. So a lot of the classes are taught in English, Adrian. So what you want to do when you find a private school, wherever you go, and then you're going to find, of course, certain areas have more Americans or more Canadians that live there that are going to want to put their kids in private school. What we're seeing here in Mexico, too, is an increase in foreigners coming to work here, corporations putting their plants here. So they want their kids in an American school or an English-speaking school. And they don't only speak English. I mean, they teach Spanish, okay? They teach some of their classes in Spanish. But the goal is to be most of the classes are in English. So you're going to find, it's just a matter, Adrian, of doing your homework in that area where you plan to live, because private school is not consistent amongst now, once you get to the high school level, a lot of times the university will have a private school, like the Tech de Monterrey has, they call it prepa, which is the equivalent to high school in the United States. And the prepa, and I explain the education system real quick, is you have primaria, secundaria, and prepa. Primaria and secundaria is really, most people drop out if they're poor, but if you get to secundaria, that's kind of like graduating high school. Okay, it's equivalent to graduating high school in the United States. Then you go to prepa, which is your 4 years of high school. But the only people that really go to prepa it's a preparatory school for college. So for example, if you're going to be an engineer, you go to a special prepa program, or it's the same school, but you go through a special program where in the United States, you have the basics. You know how you take the basic English, basic math, algebra, history. All of that stuff is done in prepa, so that whenever you go to study to be a doctor, an engineer, you already have the math. You go straight into your career in college. So some of these schools, like for example the Tech, they have prepas all over the all over Mexico. They have prepa schools that cater, because that will be your, I guess, next stepping stone into getting into the Tech. So that they have private schools, but their goal is preparing the student to go to the Tech, teaching them the system of the Tech. So some colleges do have the prepa schools. So when you get to the high school level, it depends on private schools. It's usually, and actually, the public university also has prepas, the public university that prepares you to go into the public university. Here. Quebec Rubra, I've been able to import my Pathfinder for 2,500 in Bajas. Yes, actually, Quebec Woodcraft, that's actually part of a program. Believe it or not, there was a lot of illegal vehicles here in Mexico, and AMLO did a special program. That's another program that was supposed to go away a long time ago. It's actually run by the states. So depending on what state you're in, you can get your vehicle legalized. And that's probably what you did there in Baja. I know it's still going on in Baja. They call them vehículos chocolates, chocolate cars. That's what they call them here. And they made a program where you can actually do that. They made an actual program where you could legalize your vehicles. There are some requirements for it, but Kai, hi, all. Is the middle of September to the beginning of October 24, 2020 a good time to visit Samuel? Does it rain, flood a lot during this time? Actually, I'll tell you what, you're going to be coming, well, Yes and no. October, September to October actually is a very good time to come because the winter is starting to set in. We don't have harsh winters here. Pretty much we have great weather here all year round. Now it does rain a little bit. It starts in July, August, September, October, but the rain is manageable. To be honest with you, the way it rains here is it'll pour for 30 minutes or an hour, and the next thing you know, the sun's out and the streets dry up. So now it does. There are periods where it rains a lot. This year it rained a lot. Other years it doesn't. Actually, believe it or not, when we first got here, it rained so much the presa, which is the water source, the lake, filled up so much so that they had to empty it out. And they thought, oh, we're going to get just as much rain next year. So they actually literally emptied it out 3/4 of the way, anticipating the same amount of rain the following year. And we didn't get it. And we went into a drought and a water shortage. So the rain is kind of iffy here and there, but actually, believe it or not, October and in the summer, it doesn't get too hot. To be honest with you, Kai, it cools down in the evenings. So October probably would be a good time. We came in October actually. We didn't see much rain. It did rain a little bit. We arrived in October this year, and it was really good weather. To be honest with you. I know some doctor who went to school in Canada. Yes, a lot of normally they're individuals that are more privileged, upper middle class, maybe even rich, that will go to other universities in other countries, or they'll go to the Tech, the Monterrey, stuff like that. Now, here's the thing: the Tec de Monterrey isn't only for the rich people or upper middle class. They give scholarships and everything else. So the private school is not exclusively for the rich, which is a misconception. I'll give you an example. My wife went to school on a scholarship there to the Tech, and they were upper middle class, and also her dad was a professor at the university. But there was also other individuals that she went to school with that were on a full scholarship. They weren't a middle class. They were this misconception that the private schools are only for the rich people here. It's usually for the middle class, upper middle class, and then if you're poor and you're really good and you're really brilliant and you're really smart, you can go to these private schools on scholarships. And some of the private schools, even at the primary, secondary level, and preparatory level, do offer scholarships too. Wow. Am I very difficult? Yes, it is. U.S. vehicles generally. If you permanently live in Mexico, it's better to buy a Mexican plate car. If you're a permanent resident, you have to have a Mexican car. Yes, Ralph. It is kind of, and here's the thing, I should do a video on vehicle legalization. The program that Quebec Woodcraft was talking about is a temporary program, and it was kind of like the regularization program. Like the regularization program is we got all these people that don't qualify, that have been running to the border every 6 months, or that have been living here irregular, not illegally, because illegally is not a word in immigration here, but they were irregular. So they said, let's make them regular. Let's make them residents. So it's the same thing with the cars. You're not going to see that going on too much in all the states. And yes, Ralph, you have it has to be a certain age. You have to check your VIN number. It also costs, you have to pay an import-export broker. Their fee alone is anywhere from $2,500 to, I've even heard, up to $5,000. Then you have to pay the VAT tax, or the taxes to import the vehicle. Okay, and the tax value is what Mexican customs says your car is worth, not what the Blue Book value on your car is. So you might say, hey, Kelly Blue Book says my car's worth $3,000. Well, Mexico might say, well, our Blue Book says your car's worth $10,000. So you're going to pay the taxes on the $10,000. Plus you're going to pay an import fee. Right now until September of 2023, if you buy a Tesla, an EV, or any kind of EV, you can import it for free of duties, but you still have to pay the import-export broker. Did you talk about driving conditions? I have talked a little bit about driving in Mexico, and I've also talked about it on my live stream, Quebec Woodcraft. I haven't done any of those videos where these are the top 10 things to do whenever you're driving in Mexico, but I have touched on it. It's a different style of driving, but here's the same thing, Quebec. If I go to Monterrey, driving in Monterrey, Mexico is different than driving here in San Miguel de Allende. As a matter of fact, even driving on the highway close to Monterrey or driving on the highways to Monterrey may be different than driving on the highway to Querétaro or the highway to Mexico City. So I hate to put generalizations on how they drive here because it's very different and it varies. And that's one of the reasons why I try to tell people you need to know the why. And you can't just trust somebody from Mérida that's never left Mérida or somebody from Cancun that's never left Cancun. They can tell you how they drive in Cancun. They can tell you how they drive in Mérida. And yes, some of the stuff overlaps. Or Querétaro, I can tell you how they drive in Querétaro. Some of the stuff overlaps. Yes, there's things that the tope thing is a real big thing. People avoid the speed limit and not disregard the speed limit. Yeah, there's certain general things that are pretty general about Mexico, about driving in Mexico. But depending where you go, it can be drastically a different driving experience. And that's why I try to tell you, don't just trust somebody from Cancun telling you this is the way they drive in Mexico, and this is exactly the way you drive in all of Mexico. And then you get to Monterrey, and I think Gringos or Us can tell you, Monterrey's a totally different animal driving in Monterrey than the other parts of Mexico they've been in. So that's why you need to check up on where, and it's the best thing to do is if someone gives you information about Mexico, yes, you know, these same YouTubers that do tell you that never left it, they always say, do your own research, do your own research. That's their disclaimer, so that if they're wrong, they can say, you didn't do your own research. Do your own, confirm what I tell you. But that's only a way of covering themselves, okay? And so that's where you have to really understand that things work differently. Quebec Road Crap, yes. There in Baja, you have to be really cautious, especially on Sunday. The reason why, we just went to Baja not too long ago. I call Baja, believe it or not, when I went to Cabo, an extension of California, to be honest with you. I felt like I was in California. And I saw a lot of people coming from California into Baja, into Cabo, into La Paz to come vacation when we were vacationing. Now, I was at a resort that catered to foreigners, but actually even Mexicans went there. It wasn't just foreigners. But you'll find that Sunday, there's a lot of traffic, or on Friday, because everybody's coming from San Diego and rushing down to Baja to do their surfing or to do whatever. And on Sunday, they're rushing back home so they can get to work on Monday. And you're going to find the same kinds of things in Monterrey, but it has a little bit more to do with the working people. Gringos or Us. That is so true about driving. We have driven a lot in the country, and it is a challenge at first, but it gets very easy with time. Yes, you start to learn the little quirks, and then you start to learn when you're in a certain area, the things that are different in that area than in the other areas. It's not too hard. It's not really hard. It's not difficult. When I say it's different, I just hate to do a video and say, on all of Mexico, nobody regards the speed limit. Then you get to Baja, and actually, believe it or not, I think Baja is a little bit more traffic controlled. They'll stop you for speeding a little bit more in Baja than maybe they would in the highway to Monterrey. Or they might stop you. There's certain areas of Mexico they're going to start stopping you for speeding more. So if I start saying everybody in Mexico speeds, more than likely 80 or 90% of people in Mexico speed, but not all the time. So you need to be able to adjust. It doesn't work everywhere. Like I said, Mexico's not Cancun. Mexico's not Mérida. Mexico's not San Miguel de Allende. Mexico's not Monterrey. Mexico is different depending on where you're at. Crapo, this is a very good point. And actually, I want to bring this up because I got a niece that's studying here in the in at the Tech. She's actually studying law at the Tech, and believe it or not, and let me read the question first, or not the question, but the statement. Until schools begin to proliferate in the Caribbean, Americans like myself came to Mexico to study medicine. Guadalajara was probably the most popular. I studied amongst the upper class of Mexico. Actually, Crapo, you have a good point, and I'm talking about my niece, and actually the Tech has a partnership, okay, with the University of Texas at Austin. So if she finishes her program here at the Tech, studying Mexican law, to be a Mexican lawyer, she's going to come out a Mexican lawyer. She will go to University of Texas at Austin for 2 years and do her master's degree and get licensed in the state of Texas as an attorney. So she'll be licensed here in Mexico and licensed in Texas, which will be an awesome opportunity if she utilizes that opportunity. So the other big thing is individuals coming to medical school here. Here you start straight into medical school. You forego having going to 4 years of college, and everybody says, "Oh, well, you know." And I know the Western or the North Americans' philosophy is that the individual needs to, especially in the medical field, Crapo, you can actually correct me if I'm wrong, but the medical attitude up in the Northern Americas is that, oh no, you need to go to a 4-year college so that you can mature enough to study medicine and you're mature enough to handle being a doctor. Now, the thing is, what people don't understand is here in Mexico, remember how I talked about the preparatoria schools? The preparatory schools are basically, you're doing your 4-year college basics, your 4-year college program in the prepa school, so that you're ready to become a doctor and study in Mexico as a doctor. So you go straight to studying to be a doctor. No 4-year degree, you go straight into that. Now, Guadalajara, I know UAG, there's a couple of universities that have programs in English. So there's a lot of Americans, people from the US, a lot of Canadians. They say, heck, why am I going to pay for a 4-year degree? Why am I going to pay millions of dollars or be in hundreds and thousands of dollars of debt when I can go to Mexico and I can go straight into medical school, so I don't have $100,000 debt from my 4-year college and then another couple of $100,000 from my medical school, and they come down here. Actually, believe it or not, one of his best friends that he played tennis with in Laredo, actually is studying in Guadalajara right now as a doctor to be a doctor. Do you visit Guanajuato? Yes, we do. Have you visited and really like it? Would like your have visited and really like it, but would really like your opinion. Jeff, Guanajuato is a beautiful city. It's just like San Miguel de Allende. It's very, 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 very. What do you call it? What would I say about Guanajuato? It's colonial, just like it is here. The only issue with Guanajuato, there's a lot of people that'll talk about Guanajuato. No, you don't want to go to Guanajuato. Guanajuato is one of the most dangerous states in the country, and it is true to a point, but it's true because of certain areas of Guanajuato state, not Guanajuato the city. So the city is very safe. It's very clean. It's very nice. We have friends that live in Guanajuato actually outside of town. Now, in San Miguel, Guanajuato's kind of in a bubble, and so is San Miguel. We're kind of in a bubble too. We don't see the crime. Yes, we see property crime, a lot of break-ins and stuff like that, but that's just where you would have that anywhere you go in the world. But we're kind of insulated from all of those bad things you might hear about Guanajuato. You need to remember, if you hear something bad about Guanajuato, they're usually talking about the state. And there's little communities. I mean, I'm not kidding you. You can go 15 to 20 kilometers east or west of here, and they're not the best places to be. They're not the best places to be at all. Places like Celaya, Salamanca, those areas you just don't want to be in. There's a lot of criminal activity there. But as long as you don't go to those places, you'll be fine. And Guanajuato is a beautiful place, and you stick to Guanajuato, you stick to the main roads. You know, you want to go from Guanajuato to Querétaro, you stay on the main highway going there, you should be fine. We really like it. Yes, the use of turn signals vary greatly in different parts of Mexico. Some areas mean okay to pass. Yes, it does. Also, flashing your lights in certain areas means something different. Also, honking your horn means something different. A lot of people honk their horn at you, and you're like, "What did I do? What did I do?" No, they're telling you to move over. Or some people honk their horn to let you know they're right next to you. Believe it or not, they don't honk your horn because you're gonna just about to crash into them. Sometimes when they pass you, they'll honk their horn. That's very, 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 very prominent in Nuevo León. And people won't use turn signals. They'll just go into the next lane. So you have to be very careful. And crapo, yes, the Americans were a few years older than the average Mexican student. I was 25 when I began. And actually, some Americans will go through, or some people from the U.S. will go through the 4-year college program. They may not be able to get into a medical school. I'm not saying that the quality of medical schools here, the quality of medical schools here, I think, is better than in the United States. I mean, I'm telling you right now, the doctors that I've had, the good medical schools, I'm talking about the prestigious ones here, even the public university, got the best medical schools in Guadalajara. The Tech has an excellent medical program, but a lot of people maybe scored low on their MCATs or whatever. They come to Guadalajara to study. But I'm going to tell you right now, a doctor that came out of a Mexican medical school, there are some medical schools probably that are kind of, just pay us and we'll pass you. But those are usually the doctors that you're going to see, believe it or not, working out of their house, but they're very good doctors. And one thing here in Mexico about the medical school education is even going into specialties, most doctors, they're doctors first. I mean, I'm telling you, they're doctors first. They don't only, one thing I found in other countries is I'm a cardiologist, and all I do is cardiology. I don't know anything else. All I know is about the heart. And I don't deal with all the other stuff. The other doctors deal with your endocrine system, and the other doctors deal with radiology and reading my x-rays. No, here, my doctors literally, even with a radiologist reading my PET scans, even with my doctors go over my PET scans. They go over my and confirm the radiologist's conclusion. They don't just read the report like you will see in other places. So the medical school education is like top notch here. Ralph. Yes, Guanajuato is very unusual with a good and a cool city with tunnels and hills, big college town. Yes, and actually that one of the universities is in Guanajuato. It is a big college town, and those tunnels are very famous. Actually, I think in those tunnels there's some, we went on a tour of mummies. They found some tunnels with mummies, mummified people in the tunnels. There's a museum there. It's pretty neat. I really enjoy it there. So you can't go wrong with Guanajuato. It's probably cheaper to live in than San Miguel in a sense of rent. But I have showed you in San Miguel, you can live here on the cheap if you go to the market and get your stuff at the market. And you can even have good food at the market, and it's not going to break the bank. So you can live here in San Miguel cheaply, but I think more affordably. I think what's going to kill you in San Miguel versus other places when we talk about expensive is going to be the rent. If you have enough money, well, I did the thing on real estate. If you have enough money to maybe put down that money on real estate and get rid of a rent payment, you should be totally fine. Do Mexico are changing the police now? I see lots of cop cars, white car, federal car call. I'm trying to remember how they call it. Guardia Nacional, Quebec Woodcraft. Those white cars that you see, yes, they are federal police. What happened I'll explain to you. And also, if they ever stop you and ask you for your immigration papers, I don't care what whoever said from Merida or whoever said from, there's another guy that talks about your constitutional rights. As a matter of fact, he moved away from the U.S., Siam, something, I forgot his name. He claims that he's a political refugee from the United States. Somehow he got immigration to give him political asylum here. And he actually talks about, he's the same thing. I got constitutional rights. He actually does videos where he drives through toll booths because he says they're unconstitutional. And, but he also illegally, because you're not supposed to as a resident or any kind of, unless you're a citizen, he also engages in political activity, which is illegal here. So he talks about the Constitution and how you're protected, but at the same time does illegal stuff here in Mexico. That's not right. That's illegal against the Constitution, actually, believe it or not. If you're a resident or you're a visitor, you cannot participate in political protests or political activities. And this guy did. He actually did a video where he was participating in a protest against the toll booths. So, you know, it's kind of ironic that he's talking about this Constitution that protects you, but at the same time violating the same Constitution. But what happened is that we used to have the federal police used to be in blue and white cars, and then you had the military. What AMLO did, this last president, is he incorporated the federal police, the ones you see on the highway, because of corruption. Yes, to fight corruption. That's what he did. He basically put the federal police under the direction of the military. It wasn't only to fight corruption. It was to fight corruption because the military is also known to be a little bit more disciplined, but there's still corruption anywhere you go, even in North America, even in the UK, there's corruption. So let's not get on that this generalization that all of Mexico is corrupt. Yes, there's corruption here. I'm not going to deny it, but I'm also not going to say that it's totally corrupt. But the idea was to put it under the military so it's more structured, less corrupt, if you want to say. And the other idea was that if it's under the military here in Mexico is not like the military we know in the United States or in Canada, where we go off to, as a matter of fact, the military here does not really participate in foreign operations as much as other countries do. The military here is used more as a security. They do more domestic things. Like, for example, in the United States, the military constitutionally can't operate military operations within the United States. Here, it's totally opposite. The military is your security. So what AMLO did in order to help augment the security is he said, okay, well, the military's taking care of the security. The federal police is supposed to be taking care of your security. So therefore, I'm going to merge the federal police into the military. So now the federal police not only has less corruption, but at the same time, and they're more structured, but they can also pull on military resources when they're in trouble. So let's say there's a federal police, they start getting shot at, they can call in the military to come and help them. Before, the federal police would call in the military, and the military would be like, oh, we don't feel like going. Or, yeah, we feel like going. Now they're under the command of the military, so if they call the military, it's like one of their own. Do you see where I'm coming from? Getting shot at. Instead of, oh, well, it's just the federal police getting shot at. We're not going to go, or we're not going to help you. So that's one of the things. So that's what the reason why making the federal police under the military. That's the mentality, and that's I guess, the reasoning behind it. Whether it's working or not, I'm not here to say. Their cars changed. The federal police had to give up a lot of benefits, the actual police that were federal police, because they all of a sudden became part of the military. But now you have more, and then not only that, but the military had more manpower. So now they could actually grab military units and make them Guardia Nacional. That's why they call them National Guard, Guardia Nacional. The other thing that I need to tell you, and what I was going to tell you at the beginning, they also were given immigration authority. Guardia Nacional was given immigration authority. So if you get stopped via federal police, what we know as federal police or Guardia Nacional, and they ask you for your immigration papers, don't get wise and say under Article 10, you can't ask me. They can. Now, has been some issue where they say they have to be with an immigration officer, but they do have immigration authority. Okay, so if they ask you for your passport or your permiso or whatever, they can ask you for it, even under Article 10. Now, a local cop maybe under Article 10 can't ask you, but Guardia Nacional can ask you. So that's one thing to be very aware of. Another thing to be aware of is Guardia Nacional now runs the airports, and they now run all the ports of entry. Okay, they have been placed under the military. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh my God, we're becoming a military state here. No, the military works a lot different here. And a lot of people have misconstrued all of this military stuff. And actually, even AMLO with the train system has basically, there was several train companies that he's been telling them that they need to make their tracks available because they've invested in the railroad tracks and it's only for cargo. And he's telling them, if you don't let the Mexican government use the railroad tracks, we'll take them over because it's government land and we'll put them under the direction of the military. So we can have, because he's trying to get a train system going. And, what he can do in a year, I don't know. Diana, my husband and I will be returning to Canada through the end of January to renew our temporary residence visas. We're also planning to get our RFCs. Since we don't live there yet, what can we do about providing an address? What they're going to, Diana, what they're going to require of you to get your RSC is what they call a comprobante de domicilio. It doesn't matter whose name it's in. Literally, when I got my RFC, my comprobante de domicilio was my in-laws' address. And it was under, all they need is a utility bill. And apparently, when you hear the word, bring a comprobante de domicilio, a proof of residency, right? You always think in other places in North America, it has to be under your name, bank statements under your name to prove that you live there. When you go to get a driver's license, I need your utility bill under your name to prove you're a resident of here. Now, what I guessed, I don't know why they do it here in Mexico, but a comprobante, if you can show up with a utility bill, literally a utility bill, but it has to be an original, I guess it means you live there. Probably the reason why is because a lot of people here in Mexico, a lot of family members, they live with their parents until they get married or until they can build a house. So I might be living with my parents, so the utility bill might be under my parents' name. So what they're going to need is a comprobante de domicilio. Diana, if you have somebody that can give you, for example, you're staying in an Airbnb, if they can give you a utility bill, but it has to be a recent one, and you go to the SAT, you can use that as your address for getting your RFC because what you need is your temporary residency or your residency, and you need to make your appointment. And one of the things they're going to ask is for a comprobante de domicilio. Or if you have a friend that you can use their address, then you can use that address as your comprobante. But you need to take the utility bill. Now, the Airbnb guy might say, no, I'm not going to give you a utility bill. But if you have some friends in Querétaro that you can use their address, that'd be fine. The only thing that you need to remember, and with the RFC and with immigration, is that once you move here, change your address with immigration. And RFC, and if you get your RFC, get your firma electronica, which is where they take your biometrics and you can get online. You have to take a thumb drive too. And what you can do is you can go online and you have to put your thumb drive in and give it a special key. And then you go in and you can change your address. And so the only thing that's important about the RFC and immigration is once you move here, you do need to change your address. Immigration will fine you. And also your RFC, you can have some problems if your addresses don't jive when you're trying to do transactions with your RFC. For example, you're opening up your bank account and your RFC shows an address and that you're giving your address to the bank. It's different. Sometimes that could be a problem when they're trying to do facturas. Okay, right? At least the Mexican government is trying to do something. Yes, they have been trying to do something in a lot of different areas. Jeff Miller, yes, this is very famous. When I lived in Huatepec, doctors and dentists came to town with a mobile clinic and provided free health care in exchange for their training. Mexico assigns doctors to villages in need. Yes, that's a very popular program here in Mexico, these mobile clinics. And actually, that's how a lot of doctors even do their residency. And some foreign doctors from, for example, from all over, kind of like a Peace Corps thing, foreign doctors will come here to do those missions so that they can get experience. And what's really neat about those mobile clinics, and a reason why a lot of doctors get into that program, number one, to give back to the community. When the foreign doctors to give back to the community, that's one thing. Or the doctors, local doctors that do this as a service. But also, you got to remember these doctors, when they're on these mobile clinics, you might run out of alcohol. You might run out of, I don't know, suturing. So you have to improvise. And these doctors like this experience, because what happens if I'm in an emergency room and we run out of, I got an emergency and we run out of something? Now I know what to do because we did this when I was out on the mobile clinics. So it's actually a good experience for doctors, and doctors like to do it because they actually, believe it or not, I'm going to use this analogy. A lot of surgeons went and actually volunteered to go to Vietnam during the Vietnam War in the United States. And the reason why the surgeons volunteered to go to Vietnam was because they said, I can get more experience in my 1 year tour in Vietnam, or 8-month tour, whatever the tour was. I can get more surgical experience and be a better surgeon if I go to Vietnam, because I'm going to go to Vietnam and I'm not going to have all the great equipment that I have here. I'm going to have to be relying on my own ingenuity. So a lot of doctors, and actually those are some of the best surgeons that ever came out in the United States in that era, came out of Vietnam, were military doctors that came out from Vietnam. Also, Gringos Are Us. Yes, a lot of facilitators can help you with that, Diana. Ours here in Progreso did our RC and never asked for anything. Actually, some facilitators, Gringos Are Us makes a point, some facilitators do have an address that they use and they can help you with. And then Crapple, I used the comment. I used to be common that your phone bill was in the name of the tenant from the distant past. The Guadalajara phone book was known as the Book of the Dead. Let me see here. My friend lives in San Miguel de Allende, but her husband is reluctant. He's afraid of repercussions. You know what, Diana? Actually, I'd respect what your friend, we'll be working with Yvonne again. You know what, Diana? If Yvonne does that service, I know Yvonne Pavan out of Querétaro. I don't know her personally. I just know her from her YouTuber appearances, and I know that she's one of the best in Querétaro. She's going to know, and if she got into doing RFCs, I think Sonia Diaz does it too in San Miguel de Allende. But Yvonne, you know what? If she's doing RFCs or she's helping with the RFCs, she's going to know what she's doing. And like Gringos Are Us said, if she can provide you that service, it's well worth it. It's well worth it. I had to stand it. I know that some facilitators charge 2,000 or 3,000 pesos to do it. But I know that Kai actually hired somebody to do it, but it was a local that actually helped her do everything. And dental floss. They use that in some of those remote areas where they have to be. Yes, host relocation is great. But Diana, Yvonne supposedly is an expert. I know she's an expert in, she's like the Sonia Diaz in Querétaro, as far as her reputation. So if she can help you with your RFC, it's money well spent. And she can give you workarounds, what they've been doing to get people RFCs without addresses. And You know what? If your friend that lives in San Miguel de Allende doesn't want to give you a bill, you know how to respect that because technically you're not supposed to be doing that. And you know what? If someone wants to respect the regulations here, that is, I encourage that actually, believe it or not. But I do also realize that people are in a pickle that they can't, or they're staying in an Airbnb. Most people use that for their immigration. What I do stress, Deanna, is no matter what you do through Yvonne or whatever it might be, when you come to live here, get your address straightened away with SAT and with immigration, because that's what'll cause you the problem. It's not getting it. What'll cause you the problems is when you're here, if you don't have your addresses right. Ray, planning to go from Querétaro to go to Ciudad Mexico Airport. I heard there's a bus that takes you directly. Is bus central near El Centro? Gracias from Texas. Ray, I'm not too familiar with the bus system from. Okay, the other thing too, Ray, there's 2 airports now out of Mexico City. So you need to make sure you go into the right one. There's a new one, a new international airport that was built outside of Mexico City. Most of your buses, they do have direct buses. And actually, it's probably going to be your ADO, which is down in the central, that's going to take you to Mexico City. And they probably have one to the airport. Just make sure you're going to the right airport, because there's 2 airports now in Mexico City. Is not and some of the flights, some of the airlines have refused to go into the new airport, so it all depends which flight you got going into or out or domestic, because I think the one outside of Mexico City is international, and now the one inside is for domestic. I'm not too familiar with the way the thing how it works. And Kai, yes, my Airbnb host daughter helped me get my RFC in Suidama and requested a tip for her assistance. And I believe, Kai, I think you used their address. They helped you by providing their comprobante. Wow, you're gonna from PV to Guadalajara to Morelia to Guanajuato, then Querétaro for 10 days. I hope I'm not. You're gonna be running around, but I'll tell you what, you picked some good places to go and explore. And even if you're going to probably need a vacation when you get home, because there's a lot of places to visit in 10 days. But you know what? You should have fun. So you should be able to. Now, you best thing to do is try to take it in as quickly as you can, because that's probably you want to stay in. What you probably want to do is come down, do your trip right now, and then when you find a place that you really, really like, then you go on to the next place. You go there and stay there for a little while. Where's a place to go for colder weather? I'm getting too hot in Baja, even in the winter. I'm from northern Quebec. Actually, Quebec, believe it or not, San Miguel right now, it's really great weather. Now, you're not going to find Quebec weather. It's not too cold, not too hot. I always say we have beautiful weather, and actually it gets cold even during the summer. It gets cool at night. Yeah, it does get hot. We did experience. I wasn't here. I actually experienced a hotter summer down in Monterrey, but they did experience a hotter summer here. Actually, in Querétaro, they were having some problems with their electricity infrastructure. Yeah, and yes, my Airbnb gave me their utility bill to use when I got my RFC. Okay. You have a request in your Airbnb post. Gringos are us. Yeah, they can take years to travel in the LA, finding the right spot, sure, uh, as it is so enchanting. Yes, gringos are us. Actually, what I was telling Ray right now is exactly just go to those locations as quickly as you can for the 10 days, and then pick out 2 or 3. Hey, I like Puerto Vallarta. I like Guadalajara. Then spend some time in each one of them. That's my, yes, planning to retire in 2025 at 62, looking for a town not too hot, not too far from the ocean. The only thing, the San Miguel is great, but it is far from the ocean. But you know what the great thing is, Ray? I'm going to tell you right now. For us to get to Cancun, for example, from San Miguel, we can fly out of Querétaro from León. They have budget airlines here, and literally, we can be anywhere in Mexico. Like right now, if I need to get to Monterrey, I can be in Monterrey like that next week in a couple of days for like $100, $150. It literally is very, very inexpensive. So if you pick a place far away from the beach, and you have an airport and you get on those budget airlines, and literally, if you just want to go for a weekend, it's $100, and actually you can get the light package, which is probably even $50, where you just have a personal backpack and you go for the weekend to the beach and you come back. It's very affordable to travel throughout Mexico here, even if you don't travel by car. You can travel by air. So that's one thing. So if you don't pick a place near the beach, don't think you're not going to be near the beach, because you can get there pretty quickly. Your route, yes, pick a high altitude. That's why San Miguel is the way it is because of the high altitude. This has been my travel year. Been to 15 cities already. Awesome, Ray. Well, hopefully you find a place that you can call home. Yes, Frederica, I was in San Miguel last October. The coolest temps were in the 50s at night. Slept with the windows open. Daily temps were in the 80s. Yes, October's around that. October's when the winter starts coming. But what you're going to find is it gets in the 50s, 60s at night, even in the summertime. And then it may get in the 80s and the 90s during the day. It's, like I said, San Diego weather. San Miguel de Allende. Yes. Yes, Quebec Woodcraft. San Miguel de Allende. Yes, I fly out of Ciudad Juarez. Yes. And if you find, Ray, you probably fly out of Ciudad Juarez and you probably take one of those budget airlines and you probably found it very, very inexpensive to fly. We enjoy Mexico. One of the things we enjoy about Mexico is being able to get on the plane and go anywhere we want to in Mexico. As a matter of fact, we're going back to Monterrey. We're going to drive because we got the girls. We could fly, but we're going to go back. We're going to go with family. Actually, we're going to travel back with family, and we're going to spend the Christmas holidays. I have to go to Santa Fe, New Mexico, so we're going to go there. We're going to fly out of the States, though, on that one. And then we're going to come back to Monterrey. We're going to spend a month in our house there, and then we're going to actually go to Merida. We're just going to get up, go to Merida. And I'm going to tell you right now, Merida, plane tickets from Monterrey to Merida cost us $300 for both of us. Round trip. And we're going to spend 2 weeks there. Hotel, I don't remember how much it was, but it was very inexpensive. For our week in Merida, and now, of course, we got food and expenses and everything else. But for our week in Merida, we're not, I think it was between less than $1,000. I mean, it's like even less than $800 with hotel and flight. Actually, I think we're more on the $600 or $700 range just to go to Merida and run to Merida for a week. Now, that's not including our other expenses, but just to give you an example how inexpensive it is to travel. Ray Garcia, I was surprised Monterrey was so big, reminding me of Dallas-Fort Worth. Yes, it is big. The only nice thing, I'm not saying the only nice thing, because I have a house there and everything else. But the beautiful thing about, and it's not the only nice thing, but the beautiful thing about Monterrey is it's a valley, and it's nestled between mountain. It's a valley in the middle of a mountain, two mountains. So you got mountain views on both sides. It's beautiful when the pollution clears up a little bit. But even when it's polluted, it's still beautiful. It's a beautiful town. The only thing is it's a very fast-paced town, and it's also expensive, and it's like living in a big city. If you have that big city, I want to live in New York type city, then Guadalajara, Monterrey are going to be your. The advantage of Monterrey over Guadalajara is the fact that you're only 2.5 hours from the border. Now, the only thing though, like I said, you can fly from Guadalajara to the United States for real cheap. So Yeah, it just all depends. I'm looking at my clock here, an hour and a half, so I'm going to go ahead and, unless someone else has some, we had some great discussion today. Thank you for tuning in. And, I always say, until next time, stay safe and stay informed. But I'm going to change that today on all my videos because I talked about the why and I talked about YouTubers being honest and expat services being honest. So my new term is going to be stay safe and stay honest. Until next time, we'll see you soon.